on the forums. This, yeah. So I forgot to do that. So this is the link to that to the change list. So we're just gonna go through the perfect team stuff. I don't care about the base game stuff. You can read that. There's a lot of interesting things, but nothing that particularly matters to me. Um, there will be some interesting stuff here. So just like seeing this AI engine stuff. So they're changing the internal ratings to 600 from 550. So that doesn't really change much on our end, but that does show that they did rebuild the rating scale to some degree. And these, internally it shows up like this. Externally, we see the normal, rating scales. But it'll be interesting to see if the 600 allows any extra flexibility in kind of the range of how Paul builds stuff. Um, the other things here, this intentional walk modifier, I doubt this is going to be that relevant, but it might be like a very minor change there. And then there's also this updated internal engine with many adjustments: stealing rates, bunting rates, error rates, much, much more. Now, this is very vague, and it's also not in the perfect team section, but I have to imagine this has something to do with things. So I'm hoping what this means is that stealing isn't going to be a complete no-no this year. That's what I'm hoping. I'm really hoping that this allows a wider range of players to have a reason to steal, because it's been multiple versions of this game since it's been a good idea to steal. Um, Again, that's something that we'll have to test. We'll um, see how that goes. Maybe it'll be worth, like in the beta, like that's something, maybe crank up stolen base sliders, see what things look like. But the teams are all so weird. I think that's something that might have to wait until like tournaments to really get a sense on like if that's working. Um, but we'll see. I'm definitely, there's always small engine changes every year. Um, and it'll, people are going to think about cards that were useful early last year and be like, okay, these are the cards we're playing. And a lot of those cards potentially are going to be bad. So there's going to be a lot of playing around. There's going to be a lot of experimenting the first few days. I'm going to be doing data on Silver Quicks unless something changes early. Um, and I plan on doing some data stuff early. Hopefully, that'll give us a sense of kind of what everything looks like pretty early on, which I'm very excited about, being able to play around with things. So, again, most of the stuff are things that probably don't matter to us. Updated, improved simulation speed. Hopefully, that's true. Oh, add a quick check on player compare page to see the difference between each player. This is really cool. So it basically, like on the bars, it'll say the differences between them, so you don't have to eyeball it. So this is much, much better, for the comparison window. It's really, really nice. Again, that's something that we'll look at, as we go back into the game and kind of look at what these things look like actually in game. Um, Updated playoff tree display, you know, maybe that'll be better. All right. So now let's get into the whole meat of this. This is all the good stuff right here. So, new game era, 2015 to now, split into its own era. So, basically before, OOTP, I think modern was 2005 and on, and OTP was 99 and all. This basically just makes another era for later stuff. So maybe we'll have like a 2015 plus tournament. Nothing super exciting with that, but I am someone that, like, the more options the better. And I'm sure we'll see some tournaments with this setting as we go on throughout the year. New card relations. So Paul has talked about this a bunch throughout last year. How basically the problem with the old card system is that you can only be assigned one thing. So if you're, a baseball reference special edition card, you couldn't also be a hardware hero or something like that. Where that became into a bigger deal were things like tournament cards that were Negro League cards or tournament future legend cards, where you couldn't put them into both categories and still get the chemistry or fitting in tournaments and stuff like that. This allows more flexibility with that. So we can have tournament cards that still get chemistry with Negro League, can still be in Negro League tournaments. You could have, baseball reference cards with multiple categories, things like that. So this is just a really good, really needed feature, modernizing kind of the old way of the card types, and that should be a big help there. Players now gain relations for being on the same franchise. So that's basically, as it says, it makes it so there's extra chemistry boosts for like longtime players. So like, an 1800 franchise, they changed their name a couple times. They can still get that extra boost with other things. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll have to. Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't have problem with card type chemistry as long as you're not playing the very best cards to get there. Like, the problem with Combistry was that you were getting an inherent boost on top of already playing the good cards. Um, so, like, if your team isn't, the meta 26 players that also inherently get chemistry with each other, I think it's fine getting those builds early on or throughout the year. You should have to make sacrifices to get big chemistry boosts. And I think that's very interesting gameplay. The early season Mission Edition problem was because those were all the best cards early on as well. So as long as, it'll probably happen again this year. But it's not going to last long because as those cards get pulled out, they're not going to be as good and you're going to be playing a subpar team. Even with the chemistry, is going to put you, not good enough. So at the higher levels, especially early on, I doubt that's going to be an issue. People are probably going to complain about that, but they do that every year in terms of, every card's a mission card, live cards. But that's just generally like kind of what happens. I know Paul had mentioned there being more things early on. I think he mentioned like a lot more missions early on. Well, but we don't know that. And it's like it would mean those cards would have to be the best choices in all those cards. Like, it's potential, but I think that's an interesting thing to have. Like, it's an interesting thing to try and solve and stuff like that. So, oh, got it. Yes. Sorry. I thought you were talking about Mission League chemistry, Mission Edition chemistry, because I know that was something that people brought up early on, where like people were like, let's play all 26 mission cards because that was, the best team. And that was just because a lot of those players were good, and then you got the boost on top of that, as opposed to, that. So we'll see what things look like. As I said, I know Paul mentioned there's going to be a lot more mission stuff early on, so it'll be really exciting to see kind of where that goes. Game engine changes, increased PBABIP importance. So let's talk about PBABIP real quickly, since a lot of people still don't really understand what happened with that. So in PT in PT 24, BABIP existed and was extremely overpowered. Basically, I think the range was something closer to like 240 to 340, while last year it was like 280 to 310 or so. Now, the 280 to 310 range is very very representative of real life, but the way it ends up being played out as a game design aspect is that it basically makes it like pitchers entirely go through three ratings. You have strikeouts through stuff, you have home runs off HRA, and you have walks off of control. PBABIP adds a fourth variable in that can allow players that struggle with one or two of those to have more control on balls in play. even if that's not particularly real life, where there aren't that many pitchers that have a super strong impact on their PBABIP. Ideally, I would hope that one, there's less variance, because that was one of the things too, where it took you lots and lots and lots of plate appearances to even see a relationship in terms of PBABIP this year. And two, widen it a little bit. So, like, again, I think PT24 was way too strong. We already know how that played out. I think adding a little bit of things. So it is to some degree, but like even if you look at real life baseball players, very few pitchers have that much control over that, like year to year. So like there are like almost no pitchers that can consistently hold batters to like a 250, 240, 250, even 260 BABIP. Um, but again, it makes sense as a game design aspect, just in terms of being another knob to make things more interesting. What were the cards mentioned for PT24 PBABIP? Um, I should I should open up PT24 sometime, and we should look at that. I mean, literally, it was cards where like it was like 60 stuff, 60 home run allowed, 60 control, but like 120 PBABIP, and that card was like a totally ridiculously busted bronze. Like it was the sort of thing where like if you didn't have PBABIP, you were an unplay. Like if you were like below even like an average level, you were completely unplayable regardless of regardless of anything else. It was just like completely that like influenced the players that did well to like a super high degree. Yeah, we should really pull up PT24 sometime and just look at some of the cards. Like the ratings are just so different. I barely even remember like what some of them look like and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, as I said, like I want PBABIP to matter a bit without because it really does help the profiles. Like it makes like the whole stuff issue last year. The reason why stuff had like a whole thing was that because you couldn't control PBABIP, if balls if you didn't strike out enough hitters, you had balls in play, and since you couldn't have enough control over balls in play, you just got beat up. Um, so basically, this would allow pitchers who allow more balls in play to have more of a chance to not be bad. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I imagine since they've seen 24 and 25, they know a good midpoint. But it will really change the profiles that work. And it's going to take folks, a couple weeks to actually figure out like the early game profiles that fit in different formats and stuff like that. It also mentions this balanced league totals with extreme card ratings. I'm assuming this has to do with Moonball, though it does mention league totals, which is a little bit different than tournaments and stuff. Um, so it'll be interesting to see. I'm assuming this does like we did a few tests with some super high ratings in the beta, and it didn't seem that bad. You can access the beta if you pre-ordered. If you pre-ordered and got your code, there's a link. Now you can only pre-order through FastSpring. You cannot pre-order through Steam. So if you're a Steam gamer and refuse to do otherwise, you have to wait a couple days. But there really isn't that much to do in the beta, unless you like really want to help out with like bug testing and stuff, which is all very helpful because there are a lot of issues and stuff like that right now, especially with the variant house. So anything that y'all can do to you see something weird, report it. It'll be very helpful to the dev team to make sure that the game is working to a good degree when it comes out on Friday. So, all right. So now we're going to talk about variants. everyone's favorite thing. So, yes, let's get to the point. Variants are not that different than combinators, but they are still vastly improved in a lot of the ways that people had problems with. Let's go through what it says here, and then we'll kind of talk about things. So, all right, so adjusted boost level across cards, so lower value cards increase in ratings less than upper cards. So, this was something that we had some talks about in Discord today, and it kind of is pulling up differently than I thought it was. I took this to mean that an iron with a 75 rating and a gold with a 75 rating, the gold with the 75 rating would increase more than the iron. Looking at it earlier, that doesn't seem to be the case. It's just the actual percentages are lower for lower ratings. I I I I'm not sure if that's what was intended. I feel like we had talked about at some point at the end of last year that like irons were going to get less of a boost than bronzes, than gold, than golds, etc., etc. Um, so we'll see. My worry is things like, you know, Bronze Adam Dunn, who had 140 power, getting like a 15-point boost on that power. Which, like, when you have an extreme stat at a low level, that makes much more of a difference than increasing kind of like a stat at a higher level when more people are up there. So we'll see how this turns out. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they're still making edits and changes to like how some of these things go. I wouldn't think of almost anything in the beta as final, but generally things will probably be like that. So, cards now available as variants for only limited time after they are released. So this is an interesting one that I'm not sure actually improves anything, even if it might psychologically make improve things. So basically, what, at least as far as I know, this is going to be like when they removed the launch deck out of combinators in the last cycle. So what this is going to do is make it so opening variants stays interesting in terms of you're not going to open, a 6-month-old lame one. However, what this does do is it does lower the rate of getting them in general as they go through the year. Now, I'm hoping they up the rate whenever they do a drop to keep things kind of the same. Yes, every launch deck, well, yes. I don't think we have any reason to think that every launch deck packable card has a variant. There is no reason that I have seen to think about that. Vampiric, I've talked about that too, how I thought that, like, that. No, not lives. It's the same. They're all historic cards. It's the same thing as that. Variants are more common than they were in 25. So it's gonna feel closer to what the rate was at the end of this year. So part of the confusion. So when they have the rate earlier in the year, when they took day one combis out of packs, that did not change the combi rate, because when it decides a card's going to be a combi, it basically flipped the card and then had the flip if it's going to be a combi or not. So there were half of the historic pool you didn't even have a chance of getting a combi for. So they raised the combi rate in order to make it. Yes, well that's the thing. They doubled the rate, but all that did was make the rate of overall the same as what it was to start the year. When they doubled the rate at the end of the year, that basically put the combi rate to twice how it was all year. Now, I don't know the exact math, but it's definitely a lot closer to that than before. So it's at least early in the year, it's going to feel a lot closer to what it was at the end of this year. What do you mean? Is that the odds of obtaining? We could look at that after the order of operations. No, no. Do you mean in terms of things changing? Are you saying? Okay, I get it. You're saying you think it should be different, not that I'm stating it wrong. Got it. Yeah. No, I think I'd agree, and I think it makes sense to decide that it's a combi and then decide which of the combi and stuff like that. So, yeah, that makes sense. So, we'll see. So, again, so we'll look at some of that stuff after, like the rates and stuff. Let's keep going. Okay. So, here's the next big one. To boost a card, other cards may be submitted to increase the points of the boosted card and are removed from your collection. Once the total reaches the required threshold, the boost is boosted to the next level. No more partial attempts. If excess points are added to a boost, a limited amount will be carried over towards the next boost level. So we'll look at that in game. So what this basically means is there are no non-full upgrades anymore. That is because people suck at knowing what probability is like, and people got mad for missing 85 and 90 percenters or like 10 25 percenters in a row. So now they're giving everybody, holding your hand and being like, you know what, you can't make yourself feel bad. You have to go all the way to get this upgrade so you don't do something stupid and screw yourself. I mean, yes, I get it. I'm just being sassy because I'm a statistician and I love taking like master's level probability classes. And I mean, inherently the way people's brains work, it's hard to get that. So like, I get it, but that's also the reason why they changed it. And this probably made things value-wise worse. Just in terms of like, I mean, yes, and so did I. Like, I always went 100% too, but now this, doesn't even give you the shot to do things. The scaling was too, but like, I guess what my thoughts are is that they could have done this, but still allowed the like mid percentages. This basically just is like, you couldn't, like, if people understood probability more, they would say like, okay, it's the system, but it's still, they still can, you can still try it at any point. Either way, that's gone. People are going to be happier with this. That's fine. So what you can do, and what the cool thing about this is basically, let's just say it's 2,000 points for the first thing. You can stick 10 of a card in for 1,000 points, delete them, stick that in, buy 10 more cards, stick them in, and go time. So this does a bunch of things. One, it gets you past the 10 card limit, so you could buy more copies without having to worry about that limit. You can keep your inventory a lot more empty than mine was when I was holding 600 mission historic dupes throughout the year. It also just makes things easier to like do things. So when it talks about the excess points, I think the number is 1,000. So if you put a 3,000 point card into a 2,000 point boost, 1,000 of those points will carry over. If it was a 3,500 point card to a 2,000, 1,000 of those carry over, and you'll lose 500 points of that. But that still allows you a little bit more leniency in terms of like feeling like you're wasting points by going over. So this should be very helpful in terms of that. Next, variant cards are no longer sold in the regular card shop. They will be sold in auction house style. All variant cards may be listed for initial price, are listed for a fixed amount of time, 48 hours. Other people may bid on the card with the highest bidder at auction conclusion winning and paying the price the second place bidder submitted or base price if no second bidder. So again, I started talking about this and decided to go into this. Basically what and again, this is something that we'll go through. I'll talk through this now, and then we'll kind of go through for some practice and stuff like that. Basically, you have a variant. You listed for 5,000. Someone comes in, they put a 10,000 perfect point bid. that gives you, so you pay 10,000 perfect points, but the high bid is now 5,001 because that is the highest bid that hasn't been beaten. Someone else comes in, puts a 7,500 point bid. It will tell them, sorry, your bid has been surpassed. We'll put you up to 7,501, and then that'll be it. When the auction ends, you will then be refunded the number between your maximum bid and what the final bid was. So, what this is going to mean is the person who is willing and does put the highest number on any of these cards will always get it. You will only not get a card if someone decides to put a higher number on it. Now, what this is going to do to people early on is people are going to be stuck in the same mentality as before, where they're going to try and one up. They're going to try and get, the closest, they're going to try and get deals. That's not how this system is going to work. This system is not a system to help you get the best deal. It's a system to get the cards in the hands of the people that are willing to actually spend for them. Now, it'll be interesting to see what things go, because I could see this being a painful snowball to some degree. It'll be interesting. I do think at the very so it's not blind at all. So you see what the highest current, so you could see the bid of the person who's put in their highest bid, but you could see all the bids that haven't seen beaten. You can't see the maximum bid. If I have a 10,000 perfect point bid in on a card, on a 5,000 point card, it's 5,001. You can only see the 5,001. You won't see the 10,000 until you get up to that maximum. Once you surpass someone else's maximum, they can then, either raise their maximum or put more stuff in. But only the person who currently has the winning bid has their perfect points tied up in the system. So, if someone beats, yes, you can only see the lead changes, but that has nothing to, you can see the lead changes and the bids that people make, in the middle. But the only perfect points that are taken out are the ones of the person who has their highest bid in at that time. So we'll see. 40 hours is really long. I wouldn't be surprised if that maybe goes down, because I think that's going to feel like a very long time. But definitely not, I don't think below 24 is, maybe 12. You can't lower your max bid because you have committed to a certain price. You can raise it, but once you have committed to a bid, you are committed to it. You can't do, a 10,000 perfect point bid, see no one else is bidding on it, and then go down. At least until it's over. You can get refunded, but you've committed to having someone needing to beat that price. So, yeah, and I mean, Kevin, one of the things is, it could be cool. I don't know how it's going to play out yet. It's too early to really know the psychology of how that's going to work yet. I do like starting at 48. I think if it does feel bad for most people, it's something that can reasonably change without, messing up the system. So I like it as a start, and we'll see kind of how folks feel as that goes on throughout the year. In auction sales, variant cards will retain their boost level, overflow points towards future levels of loss. So you can sell level 2s, level 3s, level 4s. This is great because what that does is it makes it so that there's less of a sunk cost, which is a big deal. It's very good to not do that. Well, so The thing, Vampiric, you say that. The other thing that's also interesting about that is that means TWIP cards will never also be available for PTCS, PTMS, PTWC. Because Thursday drops 40 hours later will be after the tournament starting. Which I think is probably a good thing. Yeah. Like, obviously, drops earlier in the week will, but, like, people aren't going to be rushing after TWIP cards to get there. But yeah, again, I do think it's going to feel long. It's going to be interesting. But again, I think these are things that we're not going to really know until we play out with it and see how it feels. But yeah, going to Kava, I think the ideal way of doing this is really going to be don't bid. Like, if you really want to save, if you really want to, like, get good deals, you don't want to put your bids in at all. You want to wait until last second and then put in your bid. Because if someone sees a high bid, maybe they might bid that up a little bit more and maybe surpass you, or maybe not. But if you really want to get, good deals, you probably want to wait. Yeah, I mean, as I said, the person who's willing to pay the highest for the card will always get the card. However, if that person doesn't actually put in the bid and doesn't see, maybe there's ways to get, some deals early. But yes, it's going to be important to watch things to try and stop people from getting good deals on these things. I think it's going to be really interesting, and it's definitely going to be better than the system where you had to, like, sit and wait and, like, expect to, like, having to get lucky or, like, spreading your bids out. Things are going to go for better prices, yeah. But the thing is, I don't even think sniping is going to be an issue, because if someone snipes you, you didn't put a high enough bid in. So, I mean, maybe it'll feel bad, but, like, at the same time, like, your 100,000 perfect point bid was sniped in the last minute. Well, you were obviously, if that was all you were willing to pay, if someone gets that card with 105,000, if you had put it at 110, you would have gotten that card. So, I really don't see sniping being an issue with them. I really don't see +1ing being an issue for them. I think people are going to do those things anyways, but I don't think it's actually a problem. I think it's going to, yeah. And that's the thing. It's like everyone has a shot to get a card. These cards are going to go for the correct prices. And I think that's decent because, like, I think there was a lot of weird wealth exchange this year where a lot of people sold expensive cards for way too cheap to people that already had the points in the teams. And this is going to make it so the people that need these very expensive cards aren't going to get deals, and they're going to have to pay up. And that'll likely give points to someone who needs it more than before. So, I think it's going to be a good thing. I don't know how it's going to feel, but I'm still excited to do that. Again, the auction house is very broken right now. I'm hoping that's, like, the biggest thing that they spend the next 2 days working on, trying to make it, like, run well, because it is kind of bad right now. But it's still better than it was last week. So we'll see. Variant cards can be quick sold. So maybe after this we'll pull up the variant page because the prices and the rates are on there, and it's very interesting. Well, yeah, it worked 5 years ago, but then they also had to, the reason why the auctions are the same now are because they had probably the similar, mechanisms to work it. But yeah, the UI is like, it's eating perfect points, it's not giving right notifications. There's just a lot of weirdness that's just kind of breaking it right now. And then starter packs will contain one variant card. This is just, you'll get a card between Iron and Gold. It'll be a variant just to, like, introduce them to people. I don't think it's going to really matter that much. Maybe you'll get some fun opens on day one and kind of put you into something. I mean, it's for free stuff. It's hard to really say anything negative about that. I just don't think it's going to really move the needle that much there. So let's actually briefly go here. So here are the variant card details. So again, Iron and Bronze are 1 in 200. Silver is 1 in 100. Gold, diamond, perfect is 1 in 50. So these are half the rates of what they were right now, but only half the cards right now can be. So it's going to feel pretty close to the same overall rates as it does right now. So the points are going to be for iron. It's going to be consistent for all. It's going to be consistent for all. It's going to be 500 points different between each level. It was 1,000 last year. The starting numbers are lower. Overall, these boosting numbers are lower than last year. I don't know the numbers offhand, but at the very least, that's better here. So now we have quick sells, and I'm pretty sure the auction minimum prices are the same as this. So it's much, much, much lower than last year. So irons were 2,000. This year they're 100. Bronze 250, silver 500, gold 2,500, diamond 10K, perfect 50K. So this is gonna make low level ones really interesting, and I'm curious to see how it's gonna play out. I don't think we're gonna see very many gotten for minimum, because they're gonna be really good value to buy at minimum just for boosting. I think same iron card is like 50. I think, yeah, so if you can get an iron for 100, that's 200 combi points. So that's an incredible deal. So I would not expect quick selling variants to or these low level variants to ever be good, because the value of buying one of those is going to be so far above for boosting what you can get in a lot of places. Again, I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but it'll be interesting. I'm definitely very interested to see how it works out. But I do think it's going to be easier in terms of what these numbers are looking like. All right, so let's get back to the change list again. Sorry. So back to the change list. We were at Clubhouse Shop. So, Clubhouse Shop. If you have been on Discord or in this stream, I have talked about a concept similar to this for years. So this is basically the tournament store. However, you could also earn these points in league play. This basically, instead of getting choice packs, instead of getting, tournament cards and stuff like that, you will get the second currency that you could only get through doing well. You can't purchase it. And then that will allow you to purchase cards or pack bundles. They also have... Yes, that is a strong point. I think being able to buy them with real money will kill the concept. So I really hope that doesn't happen. So those numbers have been posted on the Discord, on the forums, in Nico's video with Dr. D. Those are there. You could go look at those numbers. Player chemistry. Now, the big thing about this is we still don't know exactly what chemistry impacts. Cards are definitely better, but no one has put anything convincing in terms of what the actual impact per percentage is. I am confident that cards are better. I am not confident in saying how much better or what they're better at. However, it does look like they're doubling down on the importance of chemistry this year. So, we all know chemistry is gone. That's great. But then they also are doing things where they're giving extra bonuses in tournaments and theme weeks for chemistry. So this is going to be fascinating because, I think this is really, really cool if we knew what chemistry did. Because I think it's really, really interesting to push you to making different builds in different tournaments or different league settings if it matters. To a degree, that's worth it. So it'll be interesting to see how this is used. Again, it's hard to really have judgment on this since we don't know what it is. Some of these chemistry balance things are going to be good in terms of boost points, but yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. I don't. Again, we'll have to see how this plays out. I think in concept it's interesting. I don't know if it's going to play out as such, but I'm at least looking forward to seeing how that goes. All right. I have 7 minutes until ads. I do have a snooze, so we'll get through and then we'll do ads. All right. So league structure changes. So they completely updated the league ladders. So instead of having rookie, stone, iron, blah 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 blah, they're sticking to what the card types are. So iron is the lowest level. Then we have low bronze, high bronze, low silver, high silver, blah 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 blah, up to perfect. I think the goal was something like 4 high diamond leagues, 8 low diamond leagues. So like basically making the pyramid more pyramidier. So it'd be interesting to see where kind of the breakpoints are in terms of where things get tougher and at what level. Definitely fascinating, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. And they are looking to do 30 teams per league. So it is flexible, which is nice, but I think they're still going to try and keep the top levels pretty narrow. They're also going to have super promotions. So 1 extra level promotion per 10 wins above 110. So basically, if you have 140 wins, you get boosted, 3 levels. Basically, this kills speedrunning, or at least the classical way of speedrunning. When you're speedrun, they're going to put you right into a higher league, which I think is fine. It'll hurt tanking quite a bit. So we'll see where that goes. It feels like it can't be a negative. Again, they're changing promotion prices for first time. They talk about clubhouse stars in terms of Nico's video and slideshow. So yeah, tournament changes. Dailies and weeklies are going to give out clubhouse stars. That is great. That is very exciting. I've asked this for years. This is the thing I'm most excited about all year. They're adding a quick draft slot. This is going to be awesome because nobody ever played quick drafts because there really wasn't a point. And now this basically gives you a reason to always play perfect drafts. So this is cool. Quick drafts are going to be firing constantly. It's, just more free stuff and more things to do in this game. You'll always be able to draft pretty much, which is very exciting. Quality of life stuff. So open next pack will continue opening the current selected type before returning to the start of the list. So if you have 10 perfect packs, they'll go through those perfect packs before going back to standards. Cool. Nice. Buy now confirmation on cards will be skipped for low value cards. So that's basically like it's not going to ask you for confirmation when buying a 15-point iron. I think the cutoff is about 200 points. So like it kind of makes you click, there is some clicking through, but like now it kind of makes it so you don't have to have 3 clicks to buy 10-point bronzes and stuff like that. More differentiation of card values at higher levels. I'm assuming this is mission value, maybe not. I don't actually know what this means, so I guess we'll see as things go on. Buy now option on missions played for cards with the current sell order. This is awesome. Basically means you could just 2-click from the mission page to buy the mission cards you want, as opposed to having to go to the card shop. Added option to open packs until. This basically means you don't have to put a heavy object or keep your finger on the space bar. You can just put a button and it will go through all the packs. high and low diamonds have different quick colors. I don't think so, but I haven't looked at that. I don't think this is what it is because it doesn't say anything about sell, but we'll take a look at that. And then card obtained time and method display. So this shows when you got a specific card. It'd be nice if this ends up being something to put into into your player management screen, because that will help a ton in terms of just start like telling which card's which. But yeah, maybe it could be. I don't know anything about that yet, so we'll have to see. Oh yeah, it could be the new rating colors. That might be it. That's probably the best call so far. Yeah, it probably is just adding the new rating colors, which go purple and then have there's a gradient moving up like through like a pink too. So like it's definitely a lot more obvious. Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense, Paul. Um, and then this last one, we'll do this last one before taking a quick break. But relievers usage will factor in fatigue settings and usage more. Avoid having relievers used too sparingly through a season. Favor fully rested relievers. This will be interesting. Hopefully, it makes reliever usage better. And one of the things is that like sometimes if you have if you have a team of all perfect, they're definitely different. When you take a look, well. But yeah, hopefully this relievers thing makes reliever usage better with the AI and such. So again, I'm going to take a break now, but then we'll go through the game and kind of look at where some of these differences are